by light. At one point, you did know this because you are from it all. So that means it sleeps in you as a light.
January is derived from the Roman word Janus, who was an ancient Italian deity. He was the god of all beginnings and who took precedence of all other gods. He was the Ancient of Days. He presided over the beginning of human life, of the day, of the agricultural year, over gateways and openings. All reference works inform us. Under his archway the Roman armies marched to war. This archway in the Forum, afterwards replaced by a temple with double doors, was closed only in times of absolute peace. In Hebrew the word Janum means slumber. There is a mine of information available in the above statements. As Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, its negative interpretation is Satan, who stands in the doorway of the temple. He is the tempter who endeavors to stop those who would enter therein. Those who aspire to enter the sacred place have produced the mental vibrations.
While they serve on the higher planes, they rule on the material plane. But on higher and on lower, the law is always in operation. There is no such thing as chance. The blind goddess has been abolished by reason. We are able to see now, with eyes made clear by knowledge, that everything is governed by universal law, that the infinite number of laws are but manifestations of the one great law, the law which is the all. It is true indeed that not a sparrow drops unnoticed by the mind of the all, that even the hairs on our head are numbered, as the scriptures have said. There is nothing outside of law, nothing that happens contrary to it. And yet, do not make the mistake of supposing that man is but a blind automaton. Far from that. The Hermetic teachings are that man may use law to overcome laws, and that the higher will always prevail against the lower, until at last he has reached the stage in which he seeks refuge in the law itself and laughs the phenomenal laws to scorn. Are you able to grasp the inner meaning of this?
8 Butterfly, the code, the brand, the lifestyle.
Like a live electric wire, twisted into innumerable loops and folds, each outwardly entirely dissimilar to the other yet charged with the same current, all religions, creeds and sects of mankind, all secret methods of mind training, magic or sorcery and all disciplines for the attainment of mystical ecstasy or religious beatitude, whichever led to some tangible result, one and all had their roots in Kundalini. There is no doubt that what I am asserting was known in almost all the vanished civilizations of the past. The basis of all the mysteries, whether Babylonian, Egyptian or Greek, can be definitely traced to Kundalini.
That, I'll say that shit in class. Get that. Motherfuckers is already giving that shit out on PDF. You lucky ass niggas. You ain't got no reason to walk around here and the best you got in your fucking arsenal is the word hotel.
Yeah. Kabbalion. By the way, you can just get the Kabbalion. It's by the 3 initiates. That's a made-up name. When the Greeks had to put this information out, they said it's by some guy named Hermes Trismegistus. There's no fucking man named Hermes Trismegistus. And if there was a man, Hermes is from Thoth, from Egypt, and that's a priesthood. That's not a man. That's not a man. So there's no man in Greece mimicking Thoth, who was a man. This is based upon a deity. So how can Hermes Trismegistus, let's say this guy takes on Hermes' name. He's only, then that means if he takes on the name Hermes, Hermes, or Thoth, if he took it on and he was a man and he wrote this, he was only repeating the laws of Tahuti, which is absolutely clear. Like, you see, these are the laws of Tahuti. You can see these still written. So the Kabbalion is the updated name for the 7 laws of Tahuti. So let's say you want to study the Kabbalion. There's no fucking way. I don't give a fuck how Egyptian you fucking keep claiming you are as you work at fucking Chick-fil-A's. Waffle fries with that, sir? You're not going to remember these 7 laws. It's not just going to come out of your DNA. like that. It doesn't work like that. Once you intellectually get familiar with it, it starts the process. Then ultimately, as you study and reflect through wisdom and understanding, you start to unlock. Because the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is transformed into light, and your DNA is activated by light. At one point, you did know this, because you are from it all. So that means it sleeps in you as a light that needs to be turned on. It's in darkness. Darkness is the same thing as light, just a switched off version. So to be a dark side nigga is a nigga who's going into your own darkness to constantly turn on light. You turn on light in your DNA. So intellect, getting re-familiar with the writing. If we know it and it's all in our DNA, why did the Egyptians write any hieroglyphs down? They should have just said, let's not write any hieroglyphs. It's all in our DNA. Right, it'll wake up eventually. They'll just have to say, I'm whoever. And then, no, they wrote it down because they knew there would be a point where you would be dumbed down to just nothing but an intellectual being. You got to understand, we have devolved. The shit niggas is talking to do without books is niggas who are evolved. Or
want to thank you for making it this far in the video, but could you please take a few seconds, if you haven't already, to drop us a like. It really helps to promote this content in the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, and you'll be able to have a notification every time we drop content like this. I'll wait. Thanks. Right back into the content.
Were evolved or more evolved than your monkey ass. So we're here for a specific reason in this specific time. You cannot pull from another time talking about you badass. You have to get reacquainted intellectually to become that badass. Otherwise, you won't become that badass. You become a bad motherfucker, finding yourself repeating everything from lectures that you heard. In fact, as 2,000 people are usually here, and we have 422, as they're usually here, this shows me 422 people within all of the scheme of these motherfuckers are the only ones really interested. Anybody else just want to hear talking. They think they could do it or make it off of the talking. He could talk and I'll get it. At a certain level you do, but you gotta discover yourself. If you're talking, you're hearing my discoveries. And though they go a long way, because I'm good at relaying information, there's nothing like sticking your hands in the motherfucking dough yourself. I can tell you all about how to bake the bread, how I bake the bread and give you a delicious slice. But it's a different experience if you stick your hand in the dough. When that comes out the oven, it's a different experience than when you eat at a restaurant and you eat home. We're about to eat some Thai food from a restaurant. Going downstairs and try to make it, and I have a wok. And I have a wok. You understand what I'm saying? So go on the stairs and try to make it. It ain't gonna happen. So you gotta learn, because it becomes a debate and panic is all about books. And that's where I stop. Get the fuck out of here. I've been giving out methodology more than any book ever. And that's the key. So I've proved that the books do lead to methodology. It's not like the books or methodology. I showed for many years how the books lead to methodology. I show them my book. This is a whole book of methodology. This is not a book of guess what happened on Tuesday. Guess what happened when we were Egyptian. Guess what happened when we bad at. So this is saying you could do this now. You work at Burger King, I'm gonna show you the Impossible Whopper right now. This is a how-to. I deal in how-tos. So after the intellectual pursuit, the how-to is manifestation. If I don't manifest, it didn't work. You've seen my home. It's wonderful. It's splendid. When Mars Day used to say that shit, I have a cook, Physiological or something. He's Italian. He makes good spengili. You know what I'm saying? So you've been to my home. You've seen my cook. He makes good spengili. The maids come and dust to perfection. The toys are everywhere. Televisions in every room. Why? Not because I'm bragging. Why? Because you can live any way you want to live, you choose to. It ain't just about me. I'm telling this for you. So if you see me showing you shoes and this and that, not because I'm better than you, because I'm trying to prove to you that this, fucking with this, studying these, can lead somewhere, but it's a process. And it leads to, at the end of the day, as a side effect. Because I'm not doing this to live better as a human. I'm doing this to transcend my humanity. I have done that. See ya at the cusp, niggas. But while I'm here, you don't have to suffer. If you are that God, and you are who you say you are, everywhere you show up, you should be able to figure out the roots.
Now, just like Panic pointed out, study is the most important thing, because it's not about learning anything new, right? What you're watching right now is just creative marketing or divine marketing. And by it being divine marketing, it obviously is going to come in many, many creative ways. So I found a creative way to study, market, and share information at the same time with like-minded individuals. So that's what these videos are about. So it's not about you learning anything new, but you reacquainting yourself with stuff that you just using to remember your divine self. So Panic showing you the importance of study, the importance of going into the information so that you can now remember divinity. But what is this information? What is this divine synchronicity between Capricorn, between Satan, Janus, Pan, Saturn, Set, and cause and effect in the Kybalion or the 7 Hermetic principles? What is divine synchronicity? Divine synchronicity or divine revelation. And for you to come into this divine revelation or divine synchronicity, you gotta do the same thing that Panic was saying. You got to study, you got to get into the scholarship, and then you can start to see the divine synchronicities, realize yourself as divinity, and step out of the need to pray, step beyond the need for prayer, because you realize your divine self, because you see all the synchronicities, and even more so, you see the synchronicity within yourself.
The sun has now reached the southern gate to heaven, from whence it must make ready to ascend. It is the goat, Capricorn, waiting at the foot of the mountain to begin its long climb. From approximately December 21st to January 21st, the sun is transiting the zodiacal sign Capricorn, and the nature of the work accomplished during this period pertains rather more to January than to December, for 2 weeks of the former, and only one of the latter, are affected. January is derived from the Roman word Janus, who was an ancient Italian deity. He was the god of all beginnings and who took precedence of all other gods. He was the Ancient of Days. He presided over the beginning of human life, of the day, of the agricultural year, over gateways and openings, all reference works inform us. Under his archway the Roman armies marched to war. This archway in the Forum, afterwards replaced by a temple with double doors, was closed only in times of absolute peace. In Hebrew the word Janum means slumber. There is a mine of information available in the above statements. As Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, its negative interpretation is Satan, who stands in the doorway of the temple. He is the tempter who endeavors to stop those who would enter therein. Those who aspire to enter the sacred place have produced the mental vibrations causing the aspiration. In other words, they have not lost or become deficient in the material necessary to produce these higher vibrations. They will succeed in effecting an entrance if Satan is unable to make them look back. Here it must be explained that the god Janus is pictured as having two faces looking in opposite directions. One face is that of an old man, the other, that of a youth. Therefore the necessity for the double doors of the temple, for one opens into the future, while through the other one may still gaze into the past. One must decide which he will do. If past lessons have been sufficiently severe, and the prodigal son has learned them, the power of the tempter will have been lost. Then one is able to look in utter astonishment at the figure standing there. It has absolutely changed, it has taken on the form and the features of the Christ. Transmutation has been achieved, and one has at last entered into the straight gate which is straight. Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Matt. 7:13 and 14. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait, let us fall now into the hands of the Lord, for his mercies are great, and let me not fall into the hand of man. 2 Kings chapter 24 verse 14. The straight gate opens into the strait, which is a narrow passage connecting two bodies of fluid. It seems to wind around itself like a spiral stairway, or the curves in the horns of the goat. Capricorn is at the lower end, the entrance, while at the summit, or mountaintop, is Aries. The body of fluid at the bottom is that of procreation, the body of fluid at the top is that of creation and recreation. It is obvious that one who seeks to recreate himself, aspires to fall into the hands of the Lord and not into the hands of man. One of the popular fables of Greek mythology is the story of Jupiter, who was born on Mt. Olympus and suckled by the goat Amalthea. Pater Jupiter, or the giver of all good things, would actually starve to death if the goat ceased to climb the mountain with his food. This same mythology informs us that nature was symbolized in the past by the figure of the goat man whose name was Pan. Its esoteric meaning is feeder or nutriment. Pan is the root of many interesting words such as pantry, the place where food is kept, pan, a receptacle for containing food, water or any substance, also a process used in separating gold from sand. It is found in the word panacea, which is a cure-all. Food may rightly be considered as the means of healing all diseases, since it contains the salts or mineral substances required by the cells of the body. It was originally intended to do this, but for many reasons, this has become impossible. Gluttony, or living to eat, has replaced the plan of eating to live. In addition, the soil in different parts of the country has become so depleted that it is no longer possible to grow chemically perfect food. A third reason is the inability of the organs of digestion and assimilation to take care of the food. Pan means all, while panis is Latin for bread. The scriptures state that Jesus is the bread of life, and they also refer to the living bread which comes down from heaven, Aries, cerebrum. When this nutriment, or bread, is not used in procreation or wasted, it may be laid on the table in the upper chamber, and become the Lord's Supper. This is the true explanation of the scriptural statement. Pan was termed the god of shepherds. As a shepherd is one who cares for sheep or other flocks, it has a very esoteric interpretation. It must be recalled that this sign, Capricorn, is one of the four gates of heaven, out of which spirits come, and into which they return. As Aries is the gate from which they come, Cancer is the gate through which spirit enters into corpuscles, informing the cells of the body. Libra is the gate of decision, the balance point which decides whether spirit, ensouled in the corpuscles, will be strong enough to go down into the pit, the gate of Capricorn, and come up out of it, go down into hell, remain 3 days, and on the third day rise again. The above are familiar words to readers of the scriptures, but only astrology and physiology can explain them. The sun, at this time of the year, is at its lowest declination, it seems actually to disappear below the earth. This occurs as the sun enters the sign Capricorn. 3 days after, it enters the third degree of the sign, which degree allocates with Aquarius and the sign of the Son of Man. Naturally Jesus is born at this time. This is the period of the year when, if one had accomplished the task of allowing Jupiter to be fed, himself automatically taking the Holy Sacrament, the divine babe, the matrix of a new man, would be created within. But again, each one must work out his own salvation. It is work. The analysis of these 2½ degree points will reveal everything concerning man and the universe. The 25th of December was the correct date chosen for the birth of Jesus, for the very good reason that at no other time can the proper creative vibration be produced. As the carnal man disappears forever, when the divine Son is born, it is natural that Greek mythology should thus express it. Later, Pan came to be regarded as a representative of all Greek gods and of paganism itself. Indeed, according to an early Christian tradition, when the heavenly host announced the birth of Christ, Jesus, a deep groan, heard through the isles of Greece, told that great Pan was dead, that the dynasty of Olympus was dethroned, and several deities sent wandering in cold and darkness. The earnest student will realize the irrefutable fact that the 3 days which creative energy spends in hell refer to the glands in the sacral region having to do with procreation, in other words the sexual glands. For here the corpuscles are changed into animal seed. Thus a state of torment, misery and anguish results for the cabin spirit, until such time as the long task of separating the human corpuscle from the animalized corpuscle begins. This is the great work and is referred to in the scriptures as separating the sheep from the goats. As the real meaning of hell is to conceal, it verifies the above statement. The divine fire and celestial esse go down and are concealed in the lower regions, which correspond cosmically to that period of darkness and coldness termed winter. Winter is the season of the year when the sun shines most obliquely. Summer is the period of the year when the sun is directly overhead, which causes the rays to be hottest. It is the fire which Aesculapius stole from heaven and chained to earth. It will be well to turn to the chart of the cosmic embryo in this book, and note that the above statement relative to the rays of the sun in winter being most oblique, furnishes further proof of the chart's correctness. Note that the path of the sun, under the vibration of Saturn, forms an absolutely oblique line from corner to corner, across that part of the heaven assigned to Capricorn. It has been previously stated that, under the archway of Janus, the Roman armies marched to war, but that the gates were closed when there was absolute peace. This obviously refers to something out of the ordinary, since one would infer that any city gate would be opened at times, and would certainly not be closed in times of peace but for protection in times of turmoil. It has a physiological interpretation. The 3 decans of the zodiacal sign Capricorn allocate accurately with the first 3 vertebrae of the sacrum. The word sacrum is derived from the Latin sacere, meaning sacred, holy, consecrated. Recalling the fact that it is here where Aesculapius chained the divine fire, one understands why it has been given the name of sacrum. The creative fire of Aries, cerebrum, falling from heaven, has become the procreative fire. Reviewing the information given in the previous chapters, one sees that this fire was never originally intended to be chained to earth, the earthly or carnal part. To be chained means to be unable to move away from the place. If the fire were not thus confined, it would be free again to ascend and thus circulate in the body. Circulation is made impossible when the lower mind refuses to, or is unable to, raise its vibrations to those of the higher. Freeing this energy or serpent power, and its allocating substance, enables it to return to the Father. These two, being originally the product or progeny of the Father, cerebrum, must return and become one with him. As stated many times, the student should make a study of the parts of the body under consideration. Thus he will find, in this case, that the sacrum and sacral vertebrae are the points of origin, within the spinal cord, of those nerves which form the sacral plexus, and which, in connection with the coccygeal nerves, control the functions of the sexual glands. Humanity is not bound, or in the clutches of any unseen being called Satan, but is hypnotized and enthralled by its passion for sensation. It will eventually, however, reach the heights when each and every one has lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. Scorpio will have become the feathered or winged serpent. Man will have ceased to be a centaur and will have mounted his Pegasus. As this sign is said to pertain to beginnings, initial movements, gates, etc., since Capricorn is one of the 4 gates of heaven, the reason why armies pass out of this gate should be obvious. The armies refer to the rapacious spermatozoa. It is a physiological fact that they represent countless hordes. When these cease to pass out, the gate or opening out of which they pass will automatically close. We understand, at last, why it is never shut except in times of absolute peace. The body is a house divided against itself, therefore it contains warring corpuscles, the procreative germ cells, for the spirit within each one bitterly rebels against its martyrdom. Ancient literature teems with this story. It should be plain to readers that the peculiar method of its wording is sufficient evidence that it refers wholly to the human body. In the light of the above information, it is obvious why Janus presides over the beginning of human life, which is creation. From the word pan, we derive brainpan, which is the skull. The name Saturn allocates with brainpan, for it is separated into sat, which is a Latin word meaning enough or sufficient, and from which the word satiate, therefore full, is derived. An urn is a receptacle, pan, or pitcher for holding something. In ancient times it was used to hold the ashes of the dead. Since mineral salts are termed ash, it is obvious that the urn of Saturn, the Ancient of Days, held all the salts essential to life, before that God fell from heaven. These are necessary in order to satisfy the need of creative energy. No one wishes to have his brainpan become a funeral urn. How a thing will pan out is analogous to Saturn's natural power for rendering judgment on it. The law of cause and effect is here considered. Saturn is said to withhold from a person the result looked for, or desired, when that person has not actually earned it. It is also said that Saturn will pour into one's lap the fruits of legitimate work. But it must be forever realized that Saturn demands the very last farthing of what is due. When it is supplied, one is free of all bonds and restriction, for there is no longer any danger involved. Without the vibration termed Saturn, in nature, nothing could hold together. Cohesion would not exist. Saturn binds, and therefore limits within a certain radius, in order to create stability. This implies support, a foundation. The urn in the hands of Aquarius, the heavenly man, is Saturn himself, for it stands for labor and the fruits of that labor. Saturn is within each one. When the holy natural vibrations of the cosmic Saturn find the corresponding material in the human body, then, and then only, will work in that body be properly executed. When King Saturn enters his kingdom, seeking to accomplish kingly work therein, and finds his material lacking, what is the result? Naturally the work cannot be done. There is no other logical answer. Calcium phosphate is Saturn's own particular material. One of its 3 special uses is to form the bones constituting the framework of the body. The foundation of any building is constructed first, and is, therefore, the oldest part of that building. This allocates with the nature of Saturn and his esoteric name of Ancient of Days. He represents the beginning. The bony frame.
It's a book that he used a lot in a lot of his lectures and presentations, and he gathered a lot of information from it, and it was a foundation in his teachings. And we can all see why. Now, when you understand those synchronicities that reside within just that little excerpt from that scholarship, you realize that this book is one that you should really take a read in. And the thing is, with it, it's divided into every single zodiac. So you could read your zodiac first, And then you will see the synchronicities. It even gives the health deficiencies, and it shows just how the cosmic energy relates to your body and how it relates to esoteric biblical information as well. It's a real nice read. And if you look at the screen right now, you could see that all generations, symbols and trauma repeat, decoding all the esoterics of the religions of present and of past. Is chakras, is Kundalini, is symbolized in the temple of Dendera, is symbolized in all the so-called religions and all the symbols of these said religions. It's always been there. The scholarship has been right in front of our eyes, but we've been putting divinity outside ourselves. We've been making ourselves separate from everything else and not realizing this truth that was already known to us, but we're remembering right now, remembering our holistic divinity via understanding the scholarship. Because when you get the scholarship, you get the information, you get the intellect, and you can apply the knowledge, then you can gain the wisdom of holistic divinity, the wisdom to transcend the need for prayer. Note as well how it pointed out the very select and powerful cosmic energy that you interact with during the 12 days of Christmas. I noticed this big distraction that just happened right during the 12 days of Christmas when Cat Williams come out and he made these big revelations that got the whole internet going crazy right during the 12 days of Christmas when the cosmic energy is at its highest, most potent, and you should be remaining focused so that you could stay on your straight and narrow path and not be swayed by no distractions of the so-called earthly things, of the so-called things of the ego, of the so-called illusion of physicality. Person should be focused on peeling away the levels to the onion that we call this ego. When persons should be focused on just their holistic divinity, here comes the hugest distraction to see just how many are and how many will fall prey to this distraction and find themselves not focused and putting all kinds of unwanted things into their manifestation for this upcoming cycle. Now, panic is going to come in and show how this information relates to you and how it connects to your DNA alchemy, how it connects to your transformation, how it connects to you in everyday life. The scholarship that he's going to drop is going to bring it all together. And then we're going to hear the connection between all this information and the information coming out of the seven Hermetic principles on cause and effect that's going to show you the illusion of separation is the key to understanding all of this. The holistic divinity that you are right now is the key to understanding all the information that was just presented. You at the center as holistic divinity, as the one true all in the present of all of this. Right now, you are an aspect of divinity. And that's the key. And that's how you'll never need to pray again by transcending the illusion of separation and realizing these divine synchronicities is the divine revelation of you.
Bacteria, this lambda phase, if I'm saying it wrong, I'll get it right once I get to it. And this ancient ancestor taking over your DNA, the 2% now injected as the 98% of all the lifetimes, all your experience now comes online to be dealt with and transformed into the new God. The 2% is Seth. It must become beheaded so that 2% can become the new DNA. The eye of Seth, which you are now dealing with, must become the eye of Horus. So they explain the concept of Seth snatching the eye. They explain the concept of the word as your DNA as Tahuti. And Tahuti, the word, helps restore, in the mythology, the eye of Horus. You must become the eye of Horus to become Osiris, the Green Lord. Taking the ayahuasca, it showed me at the northern lights, the death process is happening. You see the green on the bottom and the white at the top. What is happening is the green represents the dead becoming the Osiris, meeting the sun god at the sunboat of Ra, the bark. It's happening before your face. These are the ascended ones making it out, getting the sunboat. That's the northern lights under the pole star. So when you get this flat earth concept, which when you die, she says the earth is flat from that perspective, from the quantum perspective. We're not talking about from the physical shit, because you stupid niggas have now made it a religion. Who gives a fuck if it's flat or if it's round? You stuck on it. You in jail. Anybody still talking about that dumb shit is a fucking agent or a fucking idiot. Stop inundating motherfucking niggas. Stop inundating with fucking facts about a flat fucking earth or a round earth. You should concentrate on getting the fuck off of it, bitch. The results in the restoration of the Eye of Horus and the risen Osiris, the green at the northern lights is the risen Osiris. Those aren't people. Those are an energy stream. That what you're seeing is an energy stream that you must become a part of. That energy stream is the weakest part, and we're going to get all this in, of the magnetosphere. That's where you have to will yourself for the process of changing your DNA to become the God. If you're not ready, you can't make it through that green stream. You got to become the Eye of Horus versus the Eye of Set, which you are, to deliver it to the Osiris, which means there's a DNA happening that must trigger this event. We're going to get there. This is a DNA happening, a cellular happening that must happen in this world. You must will yourself to certain places for this chemical response to begin. There's a failure aspect to it. That failure aspect is based upon how human you still are. I got the deepest, fakest niggas talking to me, and when I dissect their conversation spiritually, it is devoid. It is a grand production of wokeism.
While they serve on the higher planes, they rule on the material plane. But on higher and on lower, the law is always in operation. There is no such thing as chance. The blind goddess has been abolished by reason. We are able to see now, with eyes made clear by knowledge, that everything is governed by universal law, that the infinite number of laws are but manifestations of the one great law, the law which is the all. It is true indeed that not a sparrow drops unnoticed by the mind of the all, that even the hairs on our head are numbered, as the scriptures have said. There is nothing outside of law, nothing that happens contrary to it. And yet, do not make the mistake of supposing that man is but a blind automaton. Far from that. The Hermetic teachings are that man may use law to overcome laws, and that the higher will always prevail against the lower, until at last he has reached the stage in which he seeks refuge in the law itself and laughs the phenomenal laws to scorn. Are you able to grasp the inner meaning of this?
No such thing as chance. Everything is divinity. The illusion of separation is 649. You gotta see the holistic, divine aspect of yourself right now. And that's the key. But there's so many distractions, so many distractions. And the aspects of yourself that's looking to distract you, they know the distractions that will work and will work perfectly. Are you on your focus? Are you stepping in your divinity? Are you moving in your holistic divinity and not looking back? Are you making sure that when you are dealing in your everyday back and forths with just the aspects of yourself that you're interacting with, you're staying in this divine focus? I mean, I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just reminding aspects of myself about ways to remember divinity in a holistic way. I am you, you are me, and we were never here.
Your heart being light as a feather is to realize this is empty. My heart is light as a feather because what would make my heart heavy? In this particular context, when you see this mythology before the judgment of this lifetime, the only thing that can make my heart heavy if I believe this lifetime really existed in any context. So it ain't even about the level of did you steal horses or did you covet thy wife and thy neighbor's goods? It's not even about that. It's about, do you believe this shit really happened? Or do you believe your soul was entrapped into a mind matrix? And understanding that, knowing that, not just believing it in terms of blind belief, believing in what you know to be absolute within. And there you go. So now, when you become conscious, Satan sits on top of the pineal gland. He's back home at the seat of the soul. Right. He's now the light bringer. So he brings the light from the dungeness dragons through the bowels, because the light is in your testicles.
Want to thank you for making it this far in the video, but could you please take a few seconds, if you haven't already, to drop us a like? It really helps to promote this content in the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing. And you'll be able to have a notification every time we drop content like this. I'll wait. Thanks. Right back into the content.